Let me go here. Okay. What is manners? It sounds like having a good manners is good, and it's good to have a good manners. But this actually means mutually agreed norms for routing security. And I will just make a very, very quick introduction. This slide deck was done by Andrei Rogochevsky. He's the guy behind this thing, and he was supposed to be here originally, but then he said, Jan, you know enough about routing, and I was involved at the beginning of manners, so you can probably introduce this concept to the audience. So what is the problem? There is no day without an incident. I'll just go here to avoid the stream. Okay, sorry. I probably spent too much time in the data centers in my life. I got nervous, sensitive to this stuff. Okay, you can see here in red are hijacks, and you can see here in blue are the leaks. And this is just 6 months. You see? 20, 40, 60, 100. There is no day without leaking or hijacking. Routing incidents. So who here in this room already observed or had a routing incident or had a route leak or had a route hijack? Hands up. Yep, well, the usual suspects. Okay, well, insecure routing is one of the most common paths for malicious threats, definitely. And the attacks can take from several minutes to several hours and diverge traffic into very wrong ways. And there were cases where errors took the whole countries off the internet, or the whole services like YouTube, for example, was hijacked by Pakistan Telecom for quite some time in the past. That was one of the more famous ones. Or, for example, China Telecom hijacked the whole internet. They just started announcing the whole routing table pointing back to them, and there was nobody to stop them. I'm sure you know about the routing system. It's based entirely on trust between networks. I usually sort of like in a joking manner, I say that internet is run on beer, because people come and peer, and they usually there are no very hard contracts between the peers. They sit in a bar, they go like, oh, I should peer with you, you should peer with me, let's start exchanging traffic. And internet is run basically on beer. Okay, there are more serious peering agreements these days, but in the early days, the internet was run basically on beer. The problem is that there is no built-in validation that updates the legitimate. The chain of trust spanned continents and lack of reliable resources data. Which leads to, you see, how Pakistan knocked YouTube offline, DDoS attacks stormed Linode servers worldwide, routing leak briefly takes down Google, DDoS attacks on BBC, and blah, and so on and so on and so on. And this is not good. This is not good because people is losing trust in the internet. And the threats, what's happening, we have three types of attacks or incidents. We have prefix route hijacking, where an attacker impersonates another network operator. We have a route leak, where we send traffic wrong way around. And we have IP address spoofing, where the attacker basically creates the IP packet with the source address of the victim, and then creates a reflection attack that sends a huge amounts of data back to the victim. And we have DNS, we have also other services that can provide quite good amplification attack. As I said, these slides I left them in just for the refreshment for those who don't know what is route hijacking. when you announce the routes that are not yours, you hijack them, and then you try to divert traffic towards your servers. This is sometimes used for, I don't know, China is doing that a lot to divert traffic through their firewall, the Great Firewall of China, and their Layer 7D packet inspection devices. And it happened that they leaked these announcements on the outside, and then the hell broke over. A route leak is a problem where a network operator with multiple stream providers accidentally announces to one of its upstream providers that it has a route to a destination through the other upstream provider. That's a route leak. Volume drive was victim here. And IP address spoofing, I already explained. DNS amplification attack, when you impersonate the victim, and then the whole world starts sending packets to this poor guy on a 20 megs DSL line. 2017 in review, 14,000 routing incidents. Sometimes it's impossible to distinguish an attack from a legitimate routing change. Many times it's we call it fat fingers, when somebody just messes up the configuration and then strange things happens, like Pakistan and YouTube. And CC attribution is based on geolocation usually. Global stats, for example, you see the dark blue was outage, and the light blue was routing incidents. For example, 2,853 was from Brazil, and then we have US and Iran and India and Russia and Ukraine, Argentina, and so on and so forth. So these things are happening, actually. It's not a joke. It's not something that people is making up. Networks go offline because of these things. Tools to help. We have prefix and AS path filtering. We have RPKI validator. We have IRR toolset, RRPT, BGPQ3, BGPsec is standardized now, but not enough deployment, lack of reliable data, and people just not using it. Because I know how this works. You set up a network, or you add new part of the network. You announce, you go like, doesn't work? Yes, okay, let's have a beer. That's how it usually works in operations. We should do it better. We should think about these things, because if we don't deploy these minimum routing hygiene principles, we will cause trouble to the internet. So we usually think from the wrong way around. How to protect our users from the internet? Yes, of course, but we also need to protect the internet from us, right? And we need a systematic approach to improve the routing security. And remember, we are in this together. Internet is held together by BGP peers, and we are in this together. Every BGP peer has to have two endpoints. It's us and somebody else. If one of these endpoints misbehaves, we have a problem, and the internet has a problem. And that's why we started a long time ago, and this is a community project. The Internet Society is here just as a, how to say, we're just helping the community come together and work on these tools as a facilitator. This is not an ISO document. This is a community document. And let's see what MANRS does. It improves the security and reliability of the global internet routing system based on collaboration among participants and shared responsibility for the internet infrastructure. I hope that I didn't lose you here. It sets a new norm in routing hygiene. It's basically all about routing hygiene. It defines 4 simple but concrete actions, what we need to do when we set up our network, when we start using it. Please apply these principles and also talk to others. First one, filtering. Prevent propagation of incorrect routing information. Prevent route leaks, prevent hijacks. prevent fat fingers. Okay, you can't prevent fat fingers, but you can put in measures that you can prevent fat fingers. It's called filtering. Anti-spoofing, don't send out packets. Don't allow out of your network packets that do not originate from your address pools. And also do not misoriginate. I prefer not to call it a route hijack, but I call it a route misorigination, because somebody misoriginates the route. We have RPKI that is supposed to fix this, and let's see how it gets deployed. We have global validation, facilitate validation of routing information on a global scale, push your data so others can validate, RPKI. Describe your resources and what you are doing on the internet in right database, because that's how people will understand what you're up to, what you want to do, and they can help you. If you don't maintain your right database, right, other people will not be able to help you. And of course, coordination. This is the most important thing. Facilitate global operational communication and coordination between network operators. And this is why we're trying to facilitate this MANRS community. Like-minded people coming together and talking about routing security and how we together can make the internet a little bit better place. And that's the goal of internet society also, to make internet a little bit better place. What are the benefits? Of course, we prevent routing incidents, we prevent route leaks, and we protect the internet from ourselves. And if everybody would deploy some routing hygiene and these 4 actions, then internet would be a really, really nice place. There would be no route incidents, no route leaks, no DDoS attacks. Grass would be even greener, and all these things. Okay, I think I already explained this. We're trying to facilitate this MANRS community, and you are a NOG, your network operators group. You are a great starting point for starting these discussions and bring people together and form sort of like a subgroup and start forming a subset of a MANRS community, and also start discussing with the global MANRS community what they are doing to protect their networks. MANRS in its important state. Security is a process, it's not a state. You cannot implement security and then go like, okay, I did it, off I go. No, it's a process. There will be new attacks coming in every day, and you need to evolve. You need to think about it, you need to communicate with others, and you also need to help other people if they do bad things on their network without even knowing it sometimes. They should know, right? Talk to other people, call them. Like Rudiger Volk from Deutsche Telekom, when Pakistan Telecom hijacked the YouTube prefix, the first guy to react was Rudiger Volk. He phoned the Pakistan Telecom and started yelling into the phone, what the heck are they doing with the prefix announcements? This is all about cooperation. And here is the marketing slide from Andre. Join us, manrs.org, get involved in the community. And yeah, we also have the implementation guide. This was basically a best current operational practice document that is published on the manrs.org/PCOP. So MANRS is a document that sets the principles, but we also did the implementation guide that is the best kind of operational practice, how to actually implement technically all this stuff. Okay, we can't describe technically how to implement cooperation, but anyway, here are things from Job Snijders and also other good operators that actually helped putting together this operational guide. We're building MANRS training modules. There are or will be online. So you can go online and do the training how to implement all this stuff and test out. We're also building the labs.
So people will be able to basically reserve a lab or VMs, and you will have, I don't know, several ASs there, and you will have to configure the whole thing and then implement the MANR principles on that lab. This is all free. You will have to pay nothing, maybe a beer to Andre and me, but we are here for you. We are here to make the internet better. We're not selling you anything. You don't have to pay anything other than beer. But you know, let's do this. Let's do this together. And with this, I will hand back over to Maria. She will chair the session. Thank you very much. Here.
Thank you. Thank you for this introduction. And I just wanted to do a quick question. How many people here was aware of the MANRS initiative before today? Okay, so not many people in the room. Now, we are all aware of this initiative, so we can all implement it in our networks. I'm sure many of you have anti-spoofing filters, for instance, or have adopted other things that are in the MANRS initiatives too. So it's just a way to, as I said, to prevent us from doing something wrong to the internet. And well,
we secure the internet from us.
Yes, okay, that's it. So, as you know, not many people here was aware of the initiative, but luckily we have a couple of guys that have implemented them in the network, and another guy that has thought it's a brilliant idea, and they are here volunteers to do a panel session about MANRS. So my first question to the panel would be, for those who implemented it, was it difficult? Was it heavy? What are the usefulness of this MANRS?
Okay. In my view, from Clarinet, at the beginning, we apply all the anti-spoofing and filtering ACLs on the border routers in a manual way, but it's not scalable, and you can anticipate to an attack or any new threat. So. And at the moment, we have all the filters generating on demand, like using Python and running scripts in the border routers. So we have automated all the deployment of anti-spoofing and filtering. That's one of the two main principles of MANRS. And coordination. In part of coordination, I think is very important, as you explained. We have engineering, people who are working in this, like Dave Freeman, who's leading this project in Canada. And in the global validation, we are using RPKIs for root and Lua for all our prefixes. And I think it's very important to keep everything updated in the peering database. So publish all your information to all the people, because you can secure the network data if you work together. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So I come from a slightly smaller organization, but I guess that we have faced similar problems. I have not been involved myself with the deployment of all the measures described by the Django document, but still something that I found quite beautiful was that while we were all getting acquainted with each other before, we realized that even though we were not, some of us were not aware of the MANRS document itself, they were already working on the measures suggested by the document, which to me, I find that very useful to have a nice consistent document that can be used as a basis to focus our efforts and somehow know where to go. It's something that we all knew how to do. So in the NCC in particular, this has been continuous, as you were mentioning. It's a process. So all these things have been implemented way before MANRS were there. So in the end, if you try to be sort of in the forefront of these technologies, in the end, you're always going to be ahead of the curve. To that regard, my recommendation, it's slightly different. This is my personal view, not the organization that I represent. However, the one thing that we did get quite correct, and that I recommend to all of you. This might come across as something very obvious, but it might not be that obvious. It's decoupling the people that work for the organization from their roles. So when the NCC set up all its RIPE objects, those were designed in such a way that they barely need to be updated. As long as your email system keeps working, you will not need to be keeping the contact information updated, which is something very easy, but for some reason, multiple organizations fail to accomplish. So that would be my first advice. Decouple the person from the role and just make sure that your email keeps working. And yeah, then, for example, you mentioned the automation. While I am completely on board with automation, I feel that sometimes more organizations are left behind and they don't have all the resources or necessarily the knowledge in-house to run this. So don't let the lack of automation capabilities stop you from implementing basic filtering. This is something that you can do from your access switches, for example. If you're a small organization, that is a downside somehow, but at the same time, it's also there are upsides to that. You're more likely to be not such a dynamic organization. So with thoughtful thinking and an initial investment on creating the filters and so on, you can get quite far and contribute to what the MANRS manifest is putting out there. So yeah, I mean, it takes some effort, but I guess there is the ongoing effort of trying to polish your infrastructure and do the right thing. In the end, I like the implementation guide because I'm an ops person, but I quite like the document because it provides an executive summary, which, by the way, I do miss that it was not translated to Spanish. So I like the document for the decision makers out there. It puts it in a plain language so that they can understand what the benefits are, and then let us all the nerds like us go have fun and deploy them. So thanks all for your thoughts.
Well, I'm the rookie because in fact I didn't know how I knew nothing about that before Isabel Maria called me last Thursday, and then I started to take a look on that, and I spent a couple of hours, and I found very interesting, and for sure I will join in the future. I don't know when because I'm really busy now, but I for sure I do, and also I found that some of the recommendations we already are applying some of them. For instance, I started to use at the beginning the ROA because a long time ago I found that an ISP in the other part of the world was announcing one of our subjects. And I said, what the hell?
Exactly.
So also I have another recommendations that we are applied, that ACLs and anti-spoofing. Some of these are applied for our carriers. So if we try to announce a different subnet or a different AES to our carriers, they automatically block that IP address. So I don't know if they belong to the MANRS, but for sure they are applying some of these recommendations or the ICLs. And well, yeah, I think that's all for me.
Okay. It just came to my mind to add something. So if you apply these things, then the first idea of MANRS was to create sort of like a page of participants where operators can basically deploy 4 principles or 3 or 2 or 1. It's, you see up here. So this is the page at the participants, and you see, for example, I don't know, Beat, Altibox, KPN, Entity, Orange Morocco, Nordunet. These are
big operators, and here it's filtering, anti-spoofing, coordination, global validation. And you can put these checks in however you like. If you just apply 1 or 2, you can, for example, this one, go back.
Go back. Okay.
Retrocedas anterior.
Al anterior.
Well,
Okay, it
they
doesn't
go
matter.
there anyway.
So here, you see, this guy is not, see, this. Okay, anyway.
Now it's fixed.
So this is also a good promotion. If you put your name up here, then you can say, you see, I'm on this list of good people that cares about the internet and cares about protecting the internet from myself and from my users. It's like putting a diaper or something.
Yes.
And but the other usage that I see even better is that people started putting MANRS principles as a requirement in peering agreements. For example, Liquid Telecom, Andrew, again. He started putting, if you want to peer with Liquid, and that's the biggest Pan-African telco operator. They're de facto the biggest one. If you want to peer with them, you get a peering agreement, and there is a text inside that says you need to adhere to these MANRS principles. If you will not, if you will do bad things, then I have the right to just shut down the BGP peer and stop peering with you. And then all of a sudden, this starts sort of like amplifying around, because then one operator starts doing it, and then everybody around goes like, "Whoa, what is this? This MANRS. Let's, I need to at least know what I don't have to break, because otherwise, if a big operator like Liquid de-peers me, it's not a good sign. So I need to know what I don't have to break. And then people go and have a look, and then says, but this is a basic routing hygiene that we would have to have anyway, but there was never a time or money or management support to do all this stuff. Now we have such in a social engineering way, we have now something to print out and bring to our managers and say, look, we need to do this or else, right? So we can use this stuff also for a little bit of a social engineering to persuade our manager to sign off some bills for new equipment, for more filters and things like this. It is multi-purpose. And I will stop talking now.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for your wonderful advice. It was good to know from the first hand what they have done to implement MANRS, and to know that people that have not yet implemented it because they didn't know about it are going to or are thinking of implementing it. In fact, when I see that list, it's a little bit sad because there's no operator from Spain, not a single one. We have operators from everywhere. I mean, Jordi comes from Claranet, and Claranet is everywhere. And Iñigo is from privacy. But I don't think so. So for the next ESNOG meeting, we have something to do. If we have time.
Gigas, Spain.
Okay, there's one here. Perfect.
Hey, and 4 stars.
4 stars.
4 stars. Okay. Anyone from Gigas here? No, not. So well, next time for the next ESNOG, we can try to do something and try to put more names here from Spain. And well, I also wanted to ask the panelists, what was the most difficult thing to do when implementing this?
I think that Clarinet ISPs.
Honestly, under my point of view, I think the most important thing is coordination, that Jan explained. But I'm not really involved in coordination, tasks, and working groups, so I'm not really sure what's the difficulty in this matter. But I think the most important one, and what's the matter of the operator has to put more energy and time. Coordination, that's the important thing.
Well, from my perspective, in the 4 columns that we have, global validation does not stand like the hardest of them all. The RIRs have done an excellent job at hosting all the infrastructure and securing it on our behalf, so that is not the most difficult one. Coordination, as I mentioned before, not an issue. It is mostly filtering and anti-spoofing that I consider the most difficult ones. Specifically anti-spoofing, because there's no one technology that will solve all the problems. There's multiple types of routers and multiple types of RPF checking that one might do. So it's quite picky to get that right. So that's what I would consider the most difficult one. Keeping in mind that the building the filters or keeping your old objects up to date can be automated. Well, in our case, for example, that is automated, but it gets never pushed by the scripts. So it's always, we can afford not having that fully automated, so we'll review all the changes, and then basically it's a template that lets you copy paste the thing. So filtering can be solved easier than anti-spoofing.
Well, I didn't implement it, so I cannot say any more about that. But from my point of view, I think that implement the ACL, it's not going to be difficult because we already do that because we know which are our IS and which are our subnets. So it's difficult to deny all the traffic coming from our network to internet would not belong to our own IS and our own subnets. Anti-spoofing is basically the same. And coordination, I don't know what you do about coordination because I'm not in yet. And it's the same that global validation. I have to read more about it.
We will see your name up here.
Not yet.
Don't commit on tape.
One thing that happens
We'll do in
to
the
us,
future.
one thing that usually happens to all these communities is that we are all very busy people. We have many problems to solve on a day-to-day basis, so spending time in doing other things, sometimes it's difficult. So do you think that communication to our bosses or giving a good document to convince people to let us spend our time doing this would be useful?
I think that, yes, this is, well, it's not, I think that's the main problem to all of us to sell to our bosses or our CEO, that we have to implement some of things that cannot make money to the company, win money to the company. Why do you need that? Why we want to make more money with that? Probably, but not directly. It's indirectly. That's difficult to sell.
Well, if you prevent a major routing incident, then you prevent losing money. Because when you have your users, all your users down for a couple of days, then you don't have them anymore. They connected to somebody else.
Yeah, I know. But this is something that is difficult to make understand to our, not my boss, because my boss is also a technician, but C is difficult for him to make understand to CTO. It's like buy a new equipment. We need buy a new equipment because the equipment is old and maybe have problems in the future. Now it's difficult for us. I don't know for the rest, but like for us it's difficult. Because why you have to spend I don't know $10,000 or $50,000 in buying a new equipment. This is something you have to spend some time on that, and you think that you are spending time, and maybe they think that you are wasting time.
Well, it's sort of like if we would not have rules for driving cars, people would crash cars into another all the time. And this is what is happening on the internet these days. These are the basic hygiene rules, how to drive the routing cars, right? It's like if you want to be a good driver, then you do this. You don't put some damage into somebody else's, because if you don't protect yourself from the rest of the internet, then you can cause a lot of damage. But to your point, when you said that it's hard to implement the anti-spoofing thing, I agree, it is, because filters doesn't scale. So I have a question for the room. Let's see the temperature in the room. Who in this room is running in the network in DFZ mode? That's default free zone. Who has uplinks and filtering out the default, and not having a default but only valid routes? Yeah. Okay. When you run it in a DFZ mode, did you implement URPF?
No.
No? Because if you're not running the default in your networks, you could, at least in a loose mode, implement URPF, not in a strict mode, because you probably have some different ways how to send packets around, but at least in loose mode, it would prevent lots of source spoofing. I'm running my network in a default free zone and running the URPF in loose mode, and I can see that this prevents a lot of, because people tries to send spoof packets from basically anywhere. So I would like to, whoever is not running DFZ, consider stop receiving defaults, because defaults are not as good as you think. Run full routing tables from all your upstreams, and then implement URPF. And maybe next time at ESNOG we can discuss the experience and what happened in the meantime, and how if your network survived basically. Right.
Thank you very much. There was a question there.
Okay, I'm going to this side because I don't have the cameras. The project is great, as it kind of describes what the good people should be doing. But I don't want to say anything new, I'm sure. But I maybe we're putting the energy on trying to find who are the good people, and not to actually blame the bad people. So eventually say, I don't think in this room in 5 minutes we can list the top 10 carriers that allow spoofing, right? And we know them all. Some of them are in the Netherlands. Some of them running this forever. Cogent is not in the list. They will never be. So we know all this, right? So you see big transit providers like ATT and others, obviously have technical issues. I don't think they don't want to, but there's some difficulties for doing this right. So my question here, or my comment to open this debate is like, when we're going to create the no MANRS page, when we're going to actually start to put this list that we all know and say, well, this is it, and Romania is here, and Ukraine is here, in the Netherlands, I can list 5, and be able to have objective mechanisms to measure this, that we have the technology to do it, Kaida has one of those, and start to go and say, well, this is it, because eventually it's very easy to blame the little provider in Spain that they cannot do this and that, but we all know that the 90% of the cases of bad spoofing is a business driven. So if it's a business driven, driven by people that allow this to happen, we should go to the root cause of the problem, is that people are making money thanks to this. and this is the root problem. And everyone says, yes, yes, we all agree. So if we all agree on that, what stops us to do it? We have to be correct all the time, or we think it's impossible to go to coaching and tell them, guys, why you spoof in Ukraine and you don't do it in Madrid? You're the same company. Why you do it there? What happens? There you don't know how to configure the router, or
Because you can.
So it's not just a question of whether.
So if I can answer this one, this is on purpose, was built as a non-naming and shaming exercise, but more on a positive note, listing who is good people. That was a decision from the MANRS community. That was not my or Andre's or anybody else's decision. But yeah, I think you need to check if nomanners.org is still free, and just register it and put something on it and start. This is all the community efforts. If the community thinks that we need to do the naming and shaming exercise, then so be it. But usually people start being nervous when it comes to the naming and shaming exercises, and then people start suing other people, and then it gets ugly. So for now, it's
we are basically blackmailed by the power.
Yeah, then it gets ugly pretty quickly.
You need lawyers, right? If you want to fight the larger guys.
This is a good manners exercise, but yeah, if you want to do no manners, then you're more than welcome if you have good lawyers. Yeah.
Yeah, well, just a counter remark, the naming and shaming is something that has been done in the past. So, for example, I remember many years ago, I don't remember the name, but I used to get this email sent with the aggregation report, and then you have the week after week, you know who those guys are.
Philip Smith.
Well, didn't get us anywhere really. So. Yeah, as much as I do agree with your sentiment and all that, I think that the positive reinforcement not only shows more better results for dogs, but also with humans.
In Netherlands, I heard from the people on the card saying that spoofing is not illegal in the Netherlands. So when someone tells you this, and I tried that path, I took the path to go to court and go and tell listen, guys, this is the people and this is the list, and if you see with the law in your hands, spoofing is not illegal. And then what you want to say then? Okay, bye. I'm a student, I waste my flight here.
I have no idea if spoofing is illegal in any country, is it?
Right.
Because I don't know of any country that put in the law anything about the internet, basically. They barely know it exists.
That's good for now.
That's good, basically.
Countries put, lots about internet out there, right?
Yeah.
So, stealing identity is illegal. So if you have a law that says that impersonation is illegal, and it is when you clone a passport, you're cloning an identity. And so there's legal frameworks to actually fight spoofing legally, but we lack the financial mechanism to actually enforce them, because I don't have the financial mechanism to go to a court case and go to Ecatel and find this guy and tell him to stop spoofing. I don't have the money, but if he has the money in the British Virgin Islands, and I love it. So so I think the real. So I'm not saying this is fantastic, and I think it's very good because it frames the real issue, right? We have a lot of people, and it's a good build up, and it's been 4 years. It was fantastic initiative. But I think that at the end, people we have tried and MANRS, we have basically given up because people tell you, well, let's be it. Most of the hijacks are taking place because of the government, first of all, and no one has mentioned this. But this is a resource for governments to gather intelligence. So you're not going to remove this stuff from the internet. You need this stuff to do your job. And most of the hijacks are taking place in the internet exchanges where no one can have a look at them. So
To add to your point about anti-spoofing, it is enormously hard to measure spoofing, because I had an idea years ago that RIPE Atlas probes should be able to generate a spoofed packet, and let's see if it comes back to the RIPE Atlas central location, and then you would know that from this network they don't have anti-spoofing mechanisms in place.
But when I mentioned this to Daniel Karenberg, he started screaming, yelling, and shouting at me because he said that then all the operators would start blocking these probes and throwing them out of the network, and you basically, I don't know if you break the law or not, but you know, if you put a device in somebody else's network that you know it will spoof packets, people get nervous about that. And I still keep coming back to Daniel every 2 years, and I get the same dose of screaming, yelling, and shouting every 2 years, and it didn't change yet. But yeah, I'm persistent.
Yes, adamant.
At some point in time, maybe we build a new measurements network that will be just for spoofing.
There's a spoofer from, is that CADA or?
There are tools that you can.
MIT.
MIT. So there are tools, not Web Atlas, that allow you to voluntarily run these spoofing tests and submit them to a central data repository. MIT, CADA, I don't remember right now, but those are there. So if anyone is curious about, what the name of the tool is and how to install it and everything, just approach any of us later on, and we'll happily help you out. And regarding your comment, I am afraid that I do not have a solution for that. It goes beyond the technical realm. It's the same with recycling, pollution, the internet. Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't scale, unfortunately. My summary.
Thank you very much to all the panelists. Are there any questions for them? Because if not, we're going to...
I'm going to make a last comment. All the internet exchanges, like AMP6 and the big ones, collect flows. We all know that spoof traffic for denial of service is a flow with no return. Right? So when you have a flow of 3 trillion packets in one way, there's not a packet back. This is DDoS, right? Everyone understands this. And they are not releasing this information because it's private information. So when you know which ports in every internet exchange are sourcing this traffic, it's not any duty of the community that runs the internet exchanges to publicize who are the ports in the internet. They know already. There is no more gear to be deployed. This is not about being law enforcement. It's in the gear. They know which ports are actually spoofing in every internet exchange and why we are protecting those ports.
But not all members of DataX might be happy to be so proactive with the traffic. Some of them are really secretive.
Well, in first place, if you're that secretive about your traffic, just don't go to IX. However, I don't see all the IX members agreeing on what to do with, just forward my frames, don't look anything above that, and do nothing. So the information is there, the tools are there as well, but for some reason nothing is happening. Again, I think this is a matter of having multiple people agreeing on the same room.
Yeah. Well, actually, funny that you mentioned it. You're like reading my telepathy thing because I wanted to mention this. We started a sort of like a sub project, MANRS for IXPs, and we are now collecting members of IXPs to be sort of like a founding members of this MANRS for IXP, because it needs to be defined. It needs to be because the how to do it within IXP is a little bit different than in an ISP. I don't know. Are you an IXP? ISP. Okay. Yeah, we are now trying to get IXPs together to define what this MANRS for IXPs would be. So if anyone is an IXP and is interested in this stuff, talk to me. And yeah, of course, Maria. We are now getting the initial set of founding members for this activity, and we are more than happy to work with as many people as possible. That was my shameless plug. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Any more questions?
Okay, a question from the higher level, not so technical. I missed the word EDOS. Okay. Personally, I don't understand EDOS, or maybe I understand it too well. After so many years of buying very expensive security equipment that was so clever No more packet firewall, stateful, multi-level, whatever. And then one day, 1 million toasters from I don't know which country decided to connect to my place. And the whole internet helped them to do so. Hopping, changing routes, whatever. And not a single filter, not a single policy due to this nice internet that, correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't exist really. It's an agreement, right? Signed paper, not an ARPANET, not a foreign power. It's an agreement of people who pays for the bandwidth. That million of IP connected cameras from maybe Ukraine crossed the Atlantic and came to my site in the Americas, and nobody stopped them. And we were told you have suffered a DDoS attack.
Can I play a little bit of devil's advocate here now?
Yeah. So the point is between your position and his position, between the 0 and the 100. Probably the truth will be in the middle. Is there something you plan to do about it? Or you are the technical guys, but you don't know about business, you don't know about real life, you just know about algorithms, funny scripts, and funny protocols that will save other people's day?
We hate customers.
Your words are there. Thank you.
Let me play a little bit of devil's advocate now. Okay. This for the record, I will play a little bit of devil's advocate here. Don't get me too seriously, and with all my hats off. I'm speaking as a young, random guy from the internet community now. All right. I understand that packet spoofing, source address spoofing, and then doing the amplification attack back, this is illegal from the internet point of view, right? And should be prevented with filters and everything else. But you said that millions of toasters. These toasters are devices on the internet that has all the right in the world to connect to your device if they choose so. And that just means you don't have enough capacity. Why would you say a device A, you can connect to device B, but not to device C that is all around the world? Internet was never built and defined with the premise that, oh, I have a device A and device B can connect to me, device C can't. Yeah, if you have a firewall and you set these rules, yes, but that's your choice. If you are a service provider, you must not set filters because you are there to carry traffic, you are there to carry packets. You're not there to choose which packets you're going to drop. You're there to carry all the packets for your user. And then if 1 million toasters decides to connect to you, well, who are you to say no? Toasters wants to talk to me. It's internet, it's free, it's open. So there is no mechanism to distinguish between, okay, we have this very nice standard that says that the evil bit, right? Should we say that these toasters should set the evil bit on, is the April 1st RFC? Yeah. This is the only way how we can distinguish between a good packet and a bad packet, right? So that, how can you tell on the internet, you can connect to me, but you can't? And I'm playing a little bit about devil's advocate, going back to basics of the internet.
That's a good question for 1998.
Principle is still the same.
That's an incredible question for 1998. When I remember, I had a file called well-known ports. And we were younger, much less people, maybe strong, and everybody agreed hand on heart to follow the rules and to play by the rules. Packet firewalls.
Yeah.
Were all needed.
I've been there.
Yeah, with that or that. But then behavior, many people, those digital natives came in and they talk about behavior, and they said, no, you need intelligence. Oh, by the way, in the middle, I stopped watching my favorite TV series when I moved from country to country. And I just said, that internet will fail me. Why can't I watch TV all over the world? That was the internet promise. St. Binton in the heaven will be not pleased, or maybe St. John Boston. But it's
Protocol is still the same.
rules. It's about content. It's the level 12 of the OC or level 15, man. Go back to school, learn the new rules.
We come to 13.
And the point is, internet is an expensive resource, blah, 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 blah. Channels crossing the Atlantic are expensive, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to go and we are going to decide what crosses in terms of whatever. There is this guy, I can't remember the name, it has a botnet of bricks. He's an advocate of TR-069 correctly configured, and you know what?
Yeah.
He will punish ISPs not doing the job by breaking the entire set of CVEs, right? Should we pay him? Should we hunt him? Should we remove all expensive equipment and go to nice Linux boxes? Because the other 2 hours ago you say, oh, you are running IP version 4, you are outdated. We are still running Unix. Dennis, I think Dennis died. Ken is about dying too. They were so young in 1969. We are still running Unix. Many Windows boxes at their heart, they are still running NT, the pink, the pink initiative. So careful about that, right?
I'm still running SCO Unix in
And
my
I
lab.
use wheels, and I don't have a jetpack.
That's fine. I still run Solaris in my
We're still on
lab.
Earth. We're still on Earth.
Nothing wrong with that. No, but I understand what you're saying. But, the question is, how do you distinguish one device from another? How do you say, because I understand this is the question from 98, but do you think that IPv4 changed a lot from 98 to today? Not really. Still the same protocol. How do you distinguish, okay, how do you say that she can connect, but he can't? And they are both valid devices on the internet. How? Based on what?
I know.
In the internet. That's why the internet is a success, because it's open, it's free, everybody can connect to everywhere, it's peer-to-peer, end-to-end communication. We don't have, okay, we can start building a huge database of devices and blacklisting and things like this, but this doesn't scale.
But back to the Earth, about manners, when you see things get out of control or things are getting way beyond what's a day in your life, a normal day in your life, someone should do something. It's like a tsunami. You've seen other waves, right?
Yeah.
Coming every day.
Currently have black holing. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
And you take yourself out of the internet, effectively.
But you are proposing
It is what it is.
dangerous. Because what's the limit between this is a dangerous device for internet and this is a dangerous device for some organization? And this is, okay, this is showing movies. Oh, this is a dangerous device. Nothing. Where is the stop point of that? If you just have censoring device, I know you are.
Mention that.
I agree with you in the end, in the sentiment, but I think it's a dangerous thing to go the blacklisting, censoring devices because they do bad things, because the concept of bad is different just for. Then you can enter, we can enter then the law, and I will provide this device and I will block these ones. And if we go that way, it can be very dangerous, I think.
It's a matter of behavior, not a device. It's like a knife. You
Yes,
can use a
yes,
knife in the kitchen.
The problem of
or
behavior
no.
is the problem with the human people, not with the devices. So what is bad? The behavior of this hacker, the behavior of these people sharing movies, the behavior of this guy that made publishes a YouTube video singing a song of Pink Floyd and then they block him because he's a registered son of Pink Floyd. We can go a dangerous way.
But
let me give you an example that comes from the business, right? And it's a very successful one. Higher level firewalls, and the typical example is the database firewall. I won't tell names. What do? They watch queries, SQL queries, and they know every day queries cross the network, go to the databases. That's normal behavior. But one day, if they discover that a user is making too much queries or is querying alphabetically the list of whatever, they say suspicious, and usually they are right. Someone is still making bad use. What is not normal is that if you are a small provider of I don't know what, in my case, in my previous life, I was the CISO of a company that sells tickets, bus tickets in Spain. Only for Spain, you were unable to buy a bus ticket to go from Spain to Moscow. We had issues from the internet sales ticket. So the typical quintessential question was, should we allow people buying tickets from outside Spain? Because 99.98% of our audience will be based. But someone from whatever department will say, the parents of an American guy who is studying here, blah, 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 and not to lose one single ticket. We were opening our not so well-designed website or not so well-designed payment platform to the whole of the world. And that is a disaster every single month. But there they were. We were so bold. You know what? That's the point. And the point is, what happens when you buy a very expensive DDoS equipment? It's not preventing you really. It's helping you know when you have been sacked. But you should have seen it coming, right? That's the point about, that's why it was my initial question about filtering grade, anti-spoofing grade, coordination and global validation is wonderful. But hey, what about DDoS, which is the big tsunami now happening, the big cannon?
DDoS is dealt with anti-spoofing, but again, that toaster is making a completely legitimate connection to you. You need to understand that, and we don't have a mechanism to prevent that.
When
we
can
prevent anti-spoofing and reflection attacks, DDoS.
Jan, one person crossing a frontier is a refugee. One person with 1 million friends is an invasion.
If they all have passports, no. If they all have passports and want to come in a legitimate way, then they are visitors, tourists. Okay.
Same day.
There is a timeout.
I'm afraid we are really running out of time.
Nice discussion.
Yes,
we need to think about it.
Very good discussion. Very good discussion. Thank you, everybody. Remember that we have a dinner tonight. And I don't know if we can put the slide here. In Taberna Gallega de Marcos, it's in Corrientes.
Give me the mouse. The mouse.
You know,